World of Warcraft is a 20-year-old game, which begs the question, is this game still worth playing? Now, if you've never played World of Warcraft before, or you're an older player who retired at some point and is looking to come back to the game, this video is for you. We're going to dive into the pros and cons of modern World of Warcraft, what you can expect to have fun with, and maybe things that won't be so fun, and truly answer the question, is World of Warcraft worth playing? It's worth noting that although the game is 20 years old, about every 2 years a new expansion is released, and these expansions update all the content for the modern era. When you play WoW, it is impossible not to notice the rich content and history that has been put into this game. It's 20 years old with 20 years worth of updates and patches and expansions added into it, and you get to experience all of that. The world is massive, so many areas to explore and stories to see. It creates this beautiful landscape that you can spend so much time going through. And it's one of the most beautiful things about the game is just how much is there and how much is to be uncovered. If you enjoy exploration in games, you could spend the rest of your life just trying to uncover every little secret that exists in this game. However, for myself particularly, my favorite part of the game is the end game content. And I believe modern World of Warcraft is really built on getting players to that end game content and experiencing it as much as possible. Endgame content kind of falls into 4 categories. You have dungeons, raids, PvP, and then like a 4th miscellaneous world questy kind of explorative category. I don't really know what I would call that. We'll get to it in a second. Dungeons are your bread and butter of endgame content. They are what you're familiar with in a lot of MMOs. So you have a 5-player group, a tank, some DPS, and a healer, and you go through and you fight bosses and a bunch of non-boss enemies trying to get loot. Players will enter into a dungeon with the understanding that they're all going to see that dungeon through to the end, and roughly they take about 20 to 30 minutes in order to complete a dungeon. However, years ago, Blizzard added in a new feature with dungeons called Mythic Dungeons and Mythic Plus. If you'd like to learn more, I have a whole video on it. However, the short is that Mythic Plus dungeons are all about the time trial nature of the dungeon, and they scale in difficulty as you complete them. So the higher they go, the more difficult they become, and that scales infinitely until players simply cannot reasonably complete those dungeons anymore. World of Warcraft is not afraid to challenge its players and give them the opportunity to grow. Now, in dungeons, it is, the harder the dungeon, the better the loot. Although there does hit a point where it is just on the players to prove how capable they are. And if you are a competitive player like I tend to be sometimes, that is so much fun to challenge yourself and see what you are personally capable of. Am I the best? Oh, no. But I definitely have fun seeing how far I can go. And if dungeons are all about being quick and effective and efficient, raids are kind of the opposite of that. Raids are larger groups, so rather than a 5-man group, raids are going to be anywhere from 10 to 30 players, and they're going to focus on learning how to overcome challenges versus already being masters of those challenges. So as you enter into raids with your guild or your friends, you don't really plan on completing that raid most of the time, but rather seeing how far into it you can get, because it's a challenge of learning boss mechanics and working together to overcome those mechanics. My favorite memories in the game altogether are when our raid team has been trying out the same boss for like 3 weeks straight, 4 weeks straight, and finally we get it down after that like 3rd or 4th week. And it's just such an exhilarating feeling. Okay, we've been working hard at this. It has taken time of us learning, gearing up to get a little bit stronger, working together. It's slower paced than your mythic dungeons, but equally, if not more so, rewarding. PvP is another major endgame category. I don't want to speak too much into something that I don't have a lot of skin in the game for, but PvP is ultimately in 3 categories. You have world PvP, where you can fight other players out in the vast expanse of the world. Now, don't worry. If you don't want that, you can disable that feature and you can just go out on quest and not have to worry about being attacked for the most part. You also have arenas, which are small matches between players of just pure skill in player versus player combat. And then you also have battlegrounds, which are larger groups, roughly around that 10-player mark. Now, in a battleground, you're not only competing against other players in player versus player combat, but you're also usually playing some sort of mini game as well. So, for example, Warsong Gulch, one of the most popular battlegrounds, is a game of capture the flag. While though it's not for me, I do know a lot of people who absolutely love player versus player combat in World of Warcraft. And lastly, we have that fourth kind of miscellaneous category of world questing and collectibles. As I said, World of Warcraft is huge. It's massive. And every new season in the game brings with it new zones and new areas to explore, new quest lines to go through and seek out. And players love doing that. However, there's also lots of old content that you can go back through, whether you want to farm for your transmogs. That's what we call the appearance changing ability in the game. So you can make your character look special and unique by going out and collecting some rare appearances from maybe older versions of the game or even current modern versions. While I love to challenge myself in dungeons and raids and push hard and try to grow in my skill set as a player, I'm gonna be honest, usually I'm more amazed by my friends who are just avid collectors in the game and working hard to kind of get every achievement they can, get every appearance they can. It blows my mind the amount of dedication that I see and the love for the game that they have. There's so much to World of Warcraft that's just amazing. And so when it comes to those four categories, I just want to say Blizzard is killing it with this game. All four of these are major pros. Are they always perfect? No, but I would say that this is the bread and butter of World of Warcraft. This is why people play the game. If we're going to talk about the content that makes the game so good, we should also probably talk about the content that is not so good. Currently, right now in World of Warcraft, I really do not love the leveling experience of the game. It's rushed. And kind of for good reason. They want to rush you along to the endgame content, A, so you can experience what they're currently developing, and B, so players who want to try out a different class or a different experience in the game don't have to take forever when creating a new character and getting back to the content that they're already enjoying. As a 20-year-old game, World of Warcraft has a lot of content, and to level through all of that would take forever. So Blizzard has sped up how fast your characters level, and along with that, they've actually cut out the need to go through all previous content. And while though the leveling isn't the worst, it's not the most compelling. You don't really feel like you're getting more powerful. In some cases, you actually feel like you're getting a little bit weaker as you level because kind of overpowers you in the beginning, so you feel safe as you're learning, but then as you get higher in level, you're not really getting stronger than the things around you. You're kind of getting weaker than them. It's a really weird feeling. It starts to change once you get to max level and you start gearing up. That's when you feel like, oh, I'm getting strong. I'm getting powerful. But the leveling process is really just a time for you as a player to learn how your class works, to learn what your spells do, what your abilities do, and just kind of the norms of World of Warcraft. However, I will say they did update the first 10 levels, and for new players going through that, it is phenomenal. We have talked a lot about updates to the game over the last 20 years. This is another area that Blizzard is just smashing it out of the park. Their update cycle right now has been the best that I've ever seen in my history of playing World of Warcraft.
We have decided to give you a glimpse at your next 3 expansion sets.
There's frequent communication coming from their teams of what's coming up and what's happening. And we're getting these cool roadmaps that show us what we can look forward to and what they're working on. And they are delivering on these timelines. We're actually getting fairly quick updates to the game that have large amounts of content in them. World of Warcraft is an MMO, which means if you want to experience all that it has to offer, at some point you will have to interact with other players. What I'm about to say is super controversial, and if you disagree with me, go let me know down in the comments. Even angry comments help me with the algorithm, so I can't complain. However, I do firmly believe that the community in World of Warcraft is one of its highlights. I get it, there is some toxicity that exists. It is a very competitive game, which means other players will be reliant on your skill, and if you don't keep up, you could potentially cause them to have a worse experience. And yeah, they will get upset with you. And, you know, some people kind of are jerks, but that's the internet. I think at this point, we're all familiar with it. We're all used to it. and we've kind of learned how to navigate it. There is a block function in the game. If somebody bothers you, hit it. But WoW is designed in a way that really does build up their guild system. And I love the guild system in World of Warcraft. When I'm logging on, I'm checking with my guildies to see who's doing what and if anybody wants me to jump in and join them. When I'm heading off to work, I'm shooting messages in my guild's Discord server to keep up to date with everybody and just chat about how life's going on. They have become some of my closest friends, not just in the game, but also out of the game. And it really is a beautiful community. As always on the internet, there are some crappy people, but there are also some absolutely incredible people. And so the community in World of Warcraft is one that continues to grow and continues to thrive. And it's beautiful. And lastly, we have to talk about this. I don't think we can avoid it. It's kind of a con, but also kind of a pro, and that is the subscription cost. In order to have access to the game above level 20, you do need to pay $15 a month. And I get it. If that doesn't fit your budget, that is a con big enough to cut you off from the game entirely and not want to play it. Totally understand. The pro, though, of the $15 subscription is that it allows us to have a game, especially in 2024. This is rare, to have a game that isn't built upon paying for power. But to me, what makes this a pro is that that subscription fee ensures a few things for me. It ensures that there is always going to be new content coming out in the game, frequent updates that I get to enjoy and I get to play. It's also making sure that the coolest things in the game are the things that we achieve by our own skill set and our own hard work, and it's not just something that can be bought off of an in-game store or gotten from a battle pass. And World of Warcraft does have an in-game store where you can buy some items with cash, but I'm not sure if ever in my history of playing World of Warcraft I ever saw one person impressed by someone else spending money on the in-game store. It's kind of like, hey, if you want it, you can buy it, cool, but like the things that people actually get excited for, the things that people actually want to show off are the things that you worked hard for, the things that were like, whoa, that's an achievement, or dude, you must have put a lot of effort in to get that. It's also worth noting that $15 a month not only gives you access to World of Warcraft, it also gives you access to all the World of Warcraft classic variations. So you have Modern WoW, it's often called World of Warcraft Retail, but you also have World of Warcraft Classic, which comes with a hardcore mode as well, and a Season of Discovery. They're always using Classic as a way to test things out. World of Warcraft Classic is just these kind of time capsules back into older expansions of WoW. They're cycling through them. I believe the next one's going to be Cataclysm. And it's a cool way to experience something different. It's not what I would suggest for a new player coming to the game. I would suggest trying out Retail and starting there. But Classic is a nice fun shift from modern World of Warcraft, and that is included with your $15 subscription. So you're almost getting like 4 or 5 games. However, they're all variations of the same game. So do I think you should play World of Warcraft in 2024? Yes, yes, I do. And if you want to get started, I have plenty of videos on my channel that are guides to the most basic elements in the game, a great way for you to get started. And if you have any questions at all, I will link my Discord server down in the description. My name is Swag. Thanks for letting me be your guide to the World of Warcraft.